Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Bamcast. I'm your host, Baker Shields, and it is my goal to help you to learn, grow, and evolve by any means necessary. Today, we have a very special episode with Brandon Groux. Brandon is an expert in the power of breathwork, and he's also a breathwork facilitator, and he's also helping other people get certified in breathwork facilitation. So, Brandon has a vast amount of knowledge in breathwork and what it can do for you, not only physiologically in your body to help you out, but also mentally in terms of enabling you to process emotions that you wouldn't otherwise be able to even know are there or process in general. So, we talk about actionables that you can do to help yourself through the power of breathwork. And then we also talk a lot about men's mental health, breakup recovery, especially for men, and so much more inside of this episode. Brandon is a very interesting guy who is just so in tune with just himself and his own emotions that I think you guys will find it relatively contagious, just like I do. If you're not subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe to the show on YouTube and or follow the show on any type of audio platform that you're listening to, and share the show if you get something out of this one, which I know you will if you listen to it all the way through. Without further ado, let's talk to Brandon. What is up, Brandon?
Baker, my brother. It's
How
good
are
to
you
be here
doing,
with
bro?
you. I'm doing very well, thank you.
Good. We were both just talking about we had planned on trying to do some sort of a breathwork session before, but based on my experience last time, which we'll kind of get into, I was a little bit nervous about basically writing that wave of emotions straight into a podcast episode because I'd be all puffy eyed from crying again, I'm sure, and writing all the emotions that come with it. But let's just before we kind of hop into everything, I want to kind of have you tell what you do.
Hmm. Yeah, where to start? Where to start? Let's start with I mean my favorite thing that I do is facilitating breathwork.
Yep.
Breathwork is without a doubt my number one healing modality, my number one tool to use for myself, and I absolutely love guiding people through the journey. It is so powerful for me and so healing for me, honestly, to witness other people moving through and processing some um, some pain and
Yeah.
letting it go and seeing people come out on the other side and with so many different stories like the amount of stories that I've heard of life-changing experiences in one session have been really incredible to and I feel blessed that I get to do that and I lead these full hour-long breathwork journeys where people get to enter into potentially like an altered state of consciousness to
Yeah.
really drop out of their analytical monkey thinking mind and into their feeling body and it's powerful stuff.
Yeah, it 100% is. And so you kind of covered what you do and why you do it. There's there's another side to you though that I think is extremely interesting where, breath work is kind of, we were just talking about, cold exposure, right? And I know you have your own beliefs and thoughts on that. We both unknowingly we both took a cold shower right before hopping on here so that we'd be in the right mood and the right kind of frame of mind. But it's you do a lot of things that most people would be very terrified to do and that most people would consider very hard, and you do them with such a joy that I think is probably unrivaled and most people have never probably experienced, like I
Yeah.
like for example, you cliff diving, right? Is that the right term for it?
Base jumping.
Base jumping, right? Okay. Base
Um,
jumping is terrifying to me. I would you'd probably have to hold a gun to me to get me to jump off of a cliff that close to it, and then just like, but you look so happy doing those types of things.
inside it is, I am actually very terrified as well.
I bet, yeah.
um,
It'd be hard not to
yeah,
naturally.
there's a lot that goes on in your mind and your psyche, like the whole, and that's what I love about it. Like, my favorite part about it, like people say it all the time, oh, you must be such an adrenaline junkie and
Yeah.
you love that, and it's really not it. And I know that a lot of base jumpers will say something similar to this is. Um, I love to feel the adrenaline creep in and feel the fear and feel the anxiety around it. You know, as I'm gearing up, I'm thinking about my pack job, I'm thinking about the jump itself, I'm thinking about the weather. And then I get this chance to start taking these deep breaths
Hmm.
as I'm putting on my gear and as I take these deep breaths, everything just starts to slow down a little bit. And as it slows down, I start to connect to the fear and like feel into it and everything slows down. And by the time that I do get to the edge of the cliff, I'm so calm. I could lift my hand up and it wouldn't be shaking or nervous. It's just, I'm there. I've accepted, what I'm about to do, and I'm stoked for it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think the cold helps me with that a lot, consciously putting yourself into that stress state and breathing through it and being okay with it. It helps the body to be able to move through and process that stress when it comes out. Breath
Yeah.
work helps as well. It really does. Especially the full breath work journeys, like what's actually happening in the body is through this breath technique where we are activating our sympathetic nervous system, right? We're putting it into fight or flight.
Yep.
It's the same state the body was in whenever you went through some past trauma or some experience that you might consider to be negative. Your body was like, holy shit, what's happening? Right? So in order to actually access those emotions that are attached to that past experience, we have to put the body back into a similar state. The difference is we're doing it in a space that is physically safe,
Hmm.
right? It's physically safe for the body to start to feel some of those emotions and move through them and process them. I've worked with people that suffer from panic attacks, and that is like kind of what you're doing. You're putting your body into this like panic state.
Yeah.
But when you can trust that you're okay and continue during the breathwork journey to tell yourself that you're state safe and you can breathe through it. So many people have told me that now when the panic attack starts to creep in on them, they just deep breath, they remind themselves that they're safe, they remind themselves that they like got you and that they are there to support themselves,
Yeah.
and they're okay.
That's how long do you think it took you to train yourself to react to those situations like that though? Because that's definitely not something that people are able to do, I feel like early on.
Yeah, I think I mean, it's like anything. It just takes time, it takes practice, it takes commitment, it takes discipline. Um, I think too, taking the steps that I've taken, especially when it comes to those extreme sports, like the commitment to make sure I'm staying current, the commitment to make sure that I'm doing those activities with people that I trust, and that um, making sure that I'm checking all the boxes, everything that I can to feel as comfortable and safe as I can. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's a practice, and it's a continued practice.
it is.
Right?
It is.
Like
Are you familiar with it's been a relatively new idea, and Andrew Huberman has been talking about this portion of the brain a lot. Are you familiar with the AMCC?
I don't believe so.
So I could not tell you what it exactly stands for, because it's really long scientific terminology and everything. But it's so the AMCC is a portion of your brain that essentially more and more and more studies are coming out that it's the portion of your brain that has to do with your willpower.
Mm,
Okay, and the super interesting thing about this portion of your brain is that when you do things that are considered difficult or that you don't necessarily want to do and live, obviously, this portion of your brain grows like instantly. It can grow when you don't do things right, or you skip over them, or you procrastinate, or you don't go through that hard experience that your brain or your body or whatever is telling you, hey, maybe you should do this. It shrinks, and
mm,
it's nearly in real time, right? And so what they're seeing in these people that they call, I believe it's called super agers, is these people have extremely large AMCCs. That portion of their brain is extremely large, right? And a lot of times the super agers are people that have been runners their entire life, or people that have been active their entire life, or people that have, done a lot of super crazy hard things. And what they're starting to see is that those people live longer and their bodies flourish longer and they do all these things longer because the AMCC might not only be the center for willpower, but also in a parallel, the center for the will to live.
mm,
So these people actually want to live longer. So their body figures out from that center in their brain how to sustain them and make them continue to go further and longer. Now, the catch with this part of your brain is that Huberman was talking about, if you just like cold exposure, that's something pretty much nobody likes, right? Like nobody actually says in their brain, like, I want to do this. But he was like, there are a lot of people, as this gets more and more popular, that that barrier is not near as big anymore, right? Like they know that they're going to get a ton of really good stuff out of it, so they're excited for their cold exposure for the day. And the trick is that that does not grow your AMCC anymore. So you
Mm,
always have to be seeking out new things, because as soon as you fall in love with this hard thing that you're now accomplishing and doing and looking forward to, it no longer stimulates that portion of your brain. It's not going to shrink it either, but it's not going to help you out. So you
yeah.
have to be seeking out these new things. And so I wonder if what you are kind of experiencing, what you're talking about with like taking it from breath work and that journey and that experience, from taking it to cold exposure and that journey and that experience, and then now doing these things athletically and with base jumping and the things that you do there. I wonder if it's that in action.
Yeah. As you were saying that, I've can resonate with it in like real time when when I'm not pushing myself, when I'm not trying new things, when I'm not getting out of my comfort zone, right? That's the biggest thing for me is like, how am I consciously am asking myself that question a lot. Like, how am I actively seeking to get out of my comfort zone? Because in that place of comfort, we get just so complacent, right? Even if it's one thing that I'm into a lot, like right, like I'm just putting a ton of time and energy into skydiving, right, and that's like my main focus.
Yeah.
I feel the complacency start to creep in, right? I start to, you know, not doing my safety checks as well as I usually would, like things like
Hmm.
that. So I always feel like I need to be adding something new and learning something new, and like that's what my brain craves. It
Hmm.
craves that new experience. It craves the things that are out of my comfort zone and that I get to learn about and
Yeah.
like continue to educate myself on. And you're so right, right? It is from that place of the things that we don't want to do are always the things that we need. Right? I
Yeah.
think I'm probably going to butcher this quote, but there's a quote from Mike Tyson that said like, do the things that you hate to do it and do them like you love them.
Yeah.
And that quote has got me through so much, especially with doing 75 hard. And I know you've done it.
Yeah.
I think today's day 29. And I mean,
Yeah. I think
yesterday,
it's
for example,
day
like,
19 for us.
yeah, let's go.
Hmm.
Right. Like, yesterday, I knew I had to read last night, which I like to read more in the morning, so it's like I can be done and I'm not rushing it. And last night, I didn't have my workout done. It's like almost 9 p.m. I needed to do my second workout and didn't read yet, so I went upstairs and hopped on the bike, was reading while I was on the bike, and before doing it, I was doing anything I could to procrastinate and just
Yep.
like, oh, I can clean here, do a little dishes, fold some laundry. I did not want to go up there. And as soon as I got up there, as soon as I rode the bike, got on it, I could just feel the endorphins release and being like, yes, this is what I needed because I
Yep.
didn't want to be here. And I finished and I felt so good.
Hmm. And what I found since I heard about that particular center of your brain, because we always hear like push yourself to do it. The second that you do something hard, you can start to build that parallel with how you feel afterwards of that accomplishment, right? Like you conquered something, that just innate sense that we need, especially as men, to try and feel like we conquered or did something that was tough. Um, and so as soon as I heard that, I was like, that makes so much
Mm,
sense, that is a real part of the brain. It's actually measurable. Like they even said that in a lab, if you stimulate that portion of a person's brain, then they immediately feel like this rising, like I've got to go do something, I got to go accomplish something, I got to go conquer. Like they feel like that's how they describe the feeling as soon as that was stimulated. And so it's literally built into us. And so it sometimes you can feel crazy. I'm sure you feel crazy sometimes. I know I feel crazy sometimes, where it's like, adding this podcast to my plate, for example. Like I've been like called or I felt like I should be doing this type of thing for a really long time. But it's like
mm,
my schedule when I first talked about doing a podcast compared to my schedule now is like, I could have done it so easy back then, and I probably would be so much further along than I am now, as far as like the podcast and the growth of everything. But it was something that I felt like, as we are growing AR and as the other things around me that I've been working really hard on are growing as well, is like, I need to throw something new in the mix to kind of reinvigorate everything. And it
mm,
has, right? Like the creativity of me getting to like talk to all these high achievers like yourself, and these people that are just like shooting for more in life. It's helped me to think differently. It's helped me to bring more ideas and stuff into everything that else that I'm doing. Right. And I'm sure at some point there will be something else that I want to throw myself into and add to the plate, but that's part of it. And it's not that we're crazy. It's that's a literal part of our physiology that our body needs or our brain needs.
Yeah, and knowing the things that we want to do and not doing it, like I feel like is so just detrimental to our health. Like I feel like there's a list of things that I've wanted to do, especially when it comes to business, and I've put to the side or made excuses, and
Yep.
they become these like ghosts that when I'm not working, they're like in the back of my head of, wait, there's these other things that you could be doing and
Yep.
adding to your plate because you know you can,
Mm-hmm.
right? And yeah, I know at the end of the day, later in life, I don't want these ghosts to be creeping in and saying, hey, remember those things you wanted to do and you didn't do them? Like, so yeah, I try to do as much as I can.
Absolutely. Well, let's get back into kind of the physiology and the things that happen whenever you're actually taking somebody through a breathwork journey. So
Yep.
at its core, you said breathwork is putting you in kind of like a fight or flight state. It's activating the sympathetic nervous system. What else is happening within the body?
Yeah, so in that fight or flight state, right, we're activating those emotions that are attached to that past experience. Throughout the journey that I lead, an aura breathwork journey, I do a lot of breath holds with it.
Mm-hmm.
When we do breath holds on empty. So, the flow of the breath is belly, chest, exhale. It sounds something like this. And then at some point, we'll be breathing and we'll hold on empty.
Mm-hmm.
We let it go and we hold. So we deplete the body of oxygen, and in that time, the CO2 levels start to rise.
Mm-hmm.
First, like 15, 20 seconds, the body's like, knock, knock, knock. Where's that O2? Where's that oxygen we've been getting this whole time? But when the CO2 levels in the body start to rise, what happens is it creates this calming, sedative effect for the nervous system. So during the journey, we're activating and activating and activating, and then we come back down, we tap back into this parasympathetic state, and it reminds the body that, hey, we're calm, we're safe, we're good, right? And when we can reach this perfect cadence and flow throughout the journey of activating the sympathetic nervous system, coming back to this place of peace and safety with the parasympathetic, we can enter into what is considered transient hypofrontality, is the fancy word for it.
Okay.
And essentially what that means, transient meaning temporary, it's not permanent, right? We can go in and out of it. Hypo, the opposite of hyper. So to slow down or to down regulate. And what we're down regulating is the prefrontal cortex of the brain.
Okay.
Prefrontal cortex of the brain is where the ego lives, where the concept of time lives, where the inner critic lives. Right? And when we can slow that down temporarily, we do get to drop out of this analytical, critical thinking mind and into the feeling body, into the heart space, which is why
Wow.
breath work is so emotional for most people. I mean, I would say 90 to 95% of people will bawl their eyes out during breath work.
Mm-hmm.
I know I cry pretty much every time I do a breathwork journey, and it's not necessarily attached to a specific trauma or experience. It's just the body's like opportunity for letting go and for
Mm-hmm.
release. And I've done this past year, this past fall, I did two breathwork journeys with a group of veterans, and these are all hardened. Most of them had seen combat, and I will never forget the night that my buddy who runs this nonprofit called Redefining Warrior Culture, he invited me out to this retreat to do breath work, and I stood up in front of these guys the night before, and I introduced myself, and they start cracking jokes. Yeah, we know how to breathe. We do it every day,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. And I could tell they were looking at me like, "Who is this hippie? What is this bullshit he's talking about?"
Yeah.
When I'm talking about crying and this and that, and I had to meet them on their level the next day.
Mm-hmm.
I did. I had to show up with a little bit more masculine intensity.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, show up to this like you do anything else. Show up to this like you would a CrossFit workout. Show up to this like you would going to do jujitsu rolls with your boys.
Yeah.
Show up to this like you would going to the gun range, right? Show up to it fully and you will have a powerful, life-changing experience. And that's exactly what they did. And that whole room, bawling their eyes out, and some of the stories that they shared, and that's what I love about this is when I got into it, it wasn't me just having these like life-changing journeys and experiences. I was part of a men's group, and um, we were doing breath work every Sunday as part of this 12-week men's emotional awareness program. And we'd all turn our cameras on. This was during COVID. So we'd all turn our cameras on and people would start to share. And, I would be in tears a lot of times from other people's share.
Yeah.
And it was then when it was like, it's not just me having these experiences, everyone else is too. And shit works. It's
Mm-hmm.
powerful. It's real. And I heard, like I said, we did it on Sundays, and it was Father's Day was the specific Sunday, and this guy that I had been in the group with, and he hopped on, and he was like, first of all, that was super powerful, and I, but I have to say, like, I have to hop off this call, and I got to call my dad, and I got to tell him that I'm ready to reconnect, and I'm ready to
Wow.
forgive, and I'm ready to heal our relationship, and he said he hadn't spoken to him for 4 years. And it was
Wow.
that one breathwork journey. He said the only message that he kept receiving was, it's time, it's time, it's time. And it's stories like that that, um, really keep me wanting to share this as much as
Mm-hmm.
possible. And
Mm-hmm.
because it's such a gift.
Yeah. No, I know that you know you came on to a group call of basically a mentorship for entrepreneurs that Mike and I did. It wasn't in 2023, it was in 2022, I believe. And it's still kind of etched in my brain because I was probably like a lot of those veterans, probably like a lot of people that you encounter. I was, we've talked about this before. I was like, this is not like, I can't believe Mike mentioned to me that he cried before doing the breath works, and I'm like, God, Mike is such a wuss, like he's just like, I can't even, why would you even tell somebody that? And I feel like that's probably, with you being kind of specialized in more of the men's side of things, it's probably a lot of the responses that you get from most guys initially. And but I showed up, I was on that call, and I was like, this is not going to hurt me, so like let's just give it a go and see what happens. And so I remember I was living with like my roommate at the time. I hadn't gotten married yet. I was a few months out from getting ready for the wedding. And I went into my room, and I just like, laid down. I did the entire experience. You took us through an entire journey. And it completely wrecked me. Like things that were coming up for me that I didn't even know were kind of there. I was bawling my eyes out, right, the entire time. And just like most people on the call, and we all had kind of talked about it afterwards, but it truly does unlock something emotionally for you, to where it does bring up the things that maybe you've been harboring, or the things that um, have been, very been ignored, I guess, up
Mm,
to that point. And for me specifically, what it brought up was, there was a specific part of that journey that you took us on that day, where you talked about, we got towards the end, and you said something like, I want you to picture your 12-year-old self, right? And then you said, like, I want you to, from the perspective of your 12-year-old self, I want you to tell you now that you are proud of where you're at, right? And like there was that, and then it was the reverse of that, right? Like, you now tell that 12-year-old kid everything's going to be okay, everything's going to work out. And I realized that I have a lot of things inside of me where I am I struggle to be proud and present of where I currently am at, and I also
mm,
struggle to acknowledge the things that I put myself through to try and get to new areas, new levels, new things in life. And so I realized that I had a relationship with that inner child in me that I kind of needed to rectify, I kind of needed to work on and fix, and acknowledge. And
mm.
it all happened, and I think we even did a shortened version of a breathwork that day. It was like 20 minutes or 30 minutes. So it's extremely powerful stuff. And so my question too, I know physiologically I've heard of this, I believe it's called the vagus nerve, is that
Mm.
correct? what
Yeah.
what specifically about stimulating that nerve, does that trigger the sympathetic or parasympathetic response?
So what happens? So when we're taking these, and I just want to say I appreciate you sharing your story and connecting, getting to connect to that younger self is so powerful,
It is.
right? And especially with men, we don't, when we're talking about, being proud of what you do.
Hmm.
right? Like, look at this business that you've created, right? You've done so many amazing things for clients, for me,
Yeah.
right? And we just don't celebrate it. We
Hmm.
don't take the time to slow down and to give ourselves this opportunity to say, holy shit, my 12-year-old self would be stoked. He would be stoked if he could see what I'm doing. And he sees it,
Yeah.
right? So if you're listening to this like a reminder to slow down and to celebrate the things that you're doing
Yep.
and the things that you've done and the things that got you to where you're at. And I think our culture, especially with men, we're told like it's not enough. We're
Hmm.
told to work harder. We're told to make more money. We're told that it's go, 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 go. And that's how you get through.
Yep.
So just like an invitation to slow down
Yeah.
and to
And
feel
that's
into
something
that.
that that's come up on nearly every episode so far. Because there's this, I always talk about the traits of high achievers that can be observed in study after study after study. And one of them's a superiority complex,
Hmm.
right? Like people, we think that, not that I'm even grouping myself into a higher achiever. I just have the traits of one. I'm not necessarily achieving anything high yet. But I've got like, we all have like this superiority complex. I'm sure you notice it present in yourself, right? We've also got, most of the time, crippling insecurity, right? Like, and it's a belief that I'm destined for more. I'm going to do more. I want to achieve more. Like I'm going to, more than maybe the peers that I observe around myself. But also underneath that is a crippling insecurity that I might not achieve that. I might not do that. Maybe I'm not good enough to do that. And then that coupling of those two things is, I think, what causes a lot of us to not celebrate, to not recognize, because it's as soon as you do achieve the thing or the goal or the whatever kind of landmark or milestone you're shooting for, right before we get to it, what do we tend to seem to do? We tend to nudge it up a little bit more, so then
Mm.
we actually cross that threshold that we were looking for and don't acknowledge it, don't celebrate it, nothing happens. And because we all of a sudden understand that this next level is attainable now, so it's like, why would I celebrate this thing down here whenever I could go up here and I'll celebrate then? And then it never seems to happen.
Yeah, it's like like when is it gonna be enough,
Exactly.
right? And I think that's why it's important to like set goals and like them be attainable and be able to like actually celebrate it, right?
Hmm.
Like I ask my clients all the time, like, yeah, you did this, you did that. Like, how are you celebrating it? How are you intentionally setting time aside to celebrate it? Maybe it's just, hey, I'm gonna read 10 pages in my book. Like that's a celebration.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna leave my phone at home and go for a 30-minute walk. That's a celebration, right? When we can attach activities and intentionally say, hey, like I'm doing this to celebrate this,
Hmm.
right? It's so powerful for the body to feel into that for our nervous system and say, fuck yes,
Yeah.
like I did this. And that's when we can say, like, it is enough for now,
Hmm.
right? And I truly believe that mindset of saying, hey, I am enough, I'm doing enough, this is enough, right? I can celebrate this. It does help honor the things that we do, right? Because otherwise, it's just, we're never going to be enough.
Hmm.
The work that we do is never going to be, it's never enough. And I think that is where that masculine trait that we have is what's so harmful to men.
Yep. I agree. And I think that, you have a specialization, I guess, in working directly with men. And you also have even a subset of that specialization in helping men through healing them through, I guess, relationships that have impacted them in any type of way. Talk about what you see within a lot of those conversations. Like, what are some of the common themes that you feel like men are dealing with today that is maybe different than ever before?
Yeah, I think so. I work with all people, right? I
Hmm.
work with men and women, and I would say that I enjoy working with men most.
Hmm.
That's how I got into this work was a men's group, that 12-week men's emotional awareness program, and um, I think men are the ones, especially like leading them through breath work, they're the ones that have the most armor up.
Yep.
They have the most armor, the most walls. They've been told to not feel, to not express, to man up,
Hmm.
to, push the pain down. And like, you got to keep showing up. Right. And so, yeah, I do really enjoy working with men in that way, to be able to give them the space and the permission that they've probably never had to start to feel, right? For not only themselves, but for their feminine partners. Right? Because the things that our feminine partner wants most from us is the things that we've been told that we can't do.
Not to give. Yeah.
Not to give, not to express, not to be emotional. But that's what they want. And that's what's most healthy.
Hmm.
And yeah, working with men, I work with them, through relationship stuff and yeah, breakup recovery. That was how, that's kind of my specific niche. Yeah, I guess you'd say is
Hmm.
helping people get back on their feet after a breakup. A breakup was my catalyst to getting into that work, and um, I was probably in men's work, going to men's groups as a participant for like a year before I entered in this relationship. So in my head, I'm like, I did all the work. I know all the things. I know how to show up for this person like no one else had ever had before. And I was so ready for like
Yeah.
a very conscious, deep, meaningful connection. And so when I showed up to that partnership like I thought I should and could, and it still wasn't enough, man, I was crushed.
Hmm.
I was crushed. And that's what I see in men, is thinking that they have it figured out and showing up to a relationship and it not working out, and the anger and shame and the sadness of saying like, hey, why can't I figure this out? And like, or why can't I find the right partner? Why can't I be accepted for who I am? And a lot of the times it's because they're not open enough. They're not sharing enough. They're closed off. They have the walls up. So that's what a lot of my work is really getting men to open up, to slow down. Right? Like that is the number one thing. If we could
Yeah.
all just slow the fuck down a little bit, we could take some deep breaths throughout the day and slow down our nervous system and not lose our keys and our phones and our wallets all the time. Like our partners would appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. I know my
And
wife would for sure.
it's about just yeah, really slowing down and being present and listening and hearing and receiving our partners and being able to show up for them and be conscious enough to, feel into what they need, and not only feel into it, but have the vulnerability to ask maybe what they need, or to admit that, you know, we don't know what they need. And hey, like, how can I support you? What do
Hmm.
you need from me? Right? How can I support you is one of the most powerful questions you can ask your partner. It's
Or
one of the most
anybody.
powerful, or anybody,
Yeah.
right? It creates this opportunity for safety and connection. I think safety is like the biggest piece of any successful partnership or relationship is, what can I do to have my partner trust me more?
Absolutely. And so I'm sure there's a good chunk of, I feel like my listeners are probably 60 to 75% men. Um, what do you have to say? What do you say to the guys, right? Because I always hear this. And, I was able to do it. I have the most amazing wife, and I've never been somebody that's ever kind of like shut off I've obviously got my probably a little bit now considered toxically masculine traits and everything, but I've always been somebody that's been super open. I never dated just to date ever, right? Like I was in 3 relationships. They were all longer than 8, 9, 10 months. Like I've always been somebody that's been like long-term minded, like no matter
Hmm.
what. And I was dating to figure out, is this a person that I can marry? Is this a person that I can envision kids with? Is this a person that, would fit in with my family and like I'd fit in with theirs? And I never just kind of like dated to date ever. And so I approached it always with like an openness of like, I need to make sure that they know everything about me. I need to know everything about them. And we need to see if this is going to mesh and work. but I have a lot of friends, and I know a lot of like younger men around me that are like, being the nice guy doesn't work,
Mm.
right? Like if you show your sensitivity to them, they immediately are unattracted to you, right? And there's that, that you get into the red pill and the blue pill and the black pill and all that type of stuff that we've got right now, and the manosphere and everything. What do you have to say to those people that are struggling because they feel like when they do open up, it automatically turns off the attraction of the woman, or the other partner, and it turns them away?
Yeah, I mean, when I hear that, I just think potentially that person that's sitting across from them isn't ready for that. And that's okay, right? Like if that's truly what you're craving, if you are truly craving a deep, conscious, committed relationship
Yep.
and you're open and sharing that and they're, turned off by that, well, that shows me that they're not ready either. And it
Nope.
shows me that's an opportunity to say, hey, well, this is actually not connected then for me either,
Yep.
right? Because the person that is ready for that depth will meet you there.
Yes.
They will show up, and not only will they show up in that, they will be appreciative of the way that you're showing up. They will be grateful for that truth and that honesty. And if you're just out, no matter what your goal is when it comes to dating, right? Just dating with intention.
Hmm.
Whether that intention is solely to go out and get laid, if that's your intention, great. There's someone else that's open for that too,
Yeah,
right? You just have to be completely open and honest about what your intention is,
for sure.
right? And I know with my history and like experience, I had two sides of the scale. It
Hmm.
was always like would meet someone and fall head over heels, super in love, and be talking about what our kids' names are going to be 3 months into the
Yeah.
relationship, right?
Yep.
I would have that side, and then the other side, which was like going out and like one night stands,
Yep.
and not a lot of actual dating in between. So like after I'd done a lot of work on myself and putting myself back out there after that one relationship, all I wanted to do was like date to learn how to date and what it felt
Hmm.
like to meet and be open and vulnerable and share like where I was at in life and what I was looking for. And at the time, I wasn't going out seeking like to find my partner. That was not my intention. It was just going out to date and see what the dating world was like. And
Yeah.
I had already known that I was going to be moving from this specific town. So that's what I was sharing. I was like, hey, I'm here for the next like 6 months and I'm just dating to date and to meet people and to be open about where I'm at. And,
Hmm.
there would be some people that would say, hey, well, I'm looking for my life partner. I'd say, great,
Yeah.
well, we can still be friends. That's great. And there's other people that are like, shit, I'm terrified of the dating world and I'm trying to explore it too and see what it's like. And I can meet you in that. Right. So it's all about just dating with intention, all about being able to speak your truth of what you're looking for and what you need. And right now, I am seeking that depthful connection. And that's what I
Yeah.
want. And that's what I'm being open and honest about. Right.
That's
So
I
for the
think
people
that's
that are
super.
listening, there's someone out there that will meet you in what you want, but you have to be speaking your truth.
Hmm.
Right. You have to be clear on your needs, your values, your non-negotiables, so that when this person comes in, like, and they say, oh, well, yeah, I'm actually not looking for that. And what happens? Sometimes if we're still a little interested, we're like, oh, well, I can be that too. I can just be looking for this, and it's not part of your truth.
Yeah.
And when we're not living in our truth, and when we're not connected to integrity, and then things start to shift. We build resentment to this person because they're not meeting us there, or yeah, like you said, they start to push you away because they feel that you're in authenticity in the way that you're showing up.
Yeah. And I think that's such a powerful idea too, is just be open from day one, because it is our natural inclination. And I've seen it time and time and time again. You see these relationships around you that kind of form, and you're like, well, you spend a little bit of time around the couple and you're like, you two don't really know who each other are. Like I
Mm,
can see it. Like you're being a different version of yourself right now in front of this person than you were 10 minutes ago before they walked in the door. Um, and I think it is our natural inclination, is like we want to present this best version of ourselves, right? Especially for the first few months of a relationship, because we want to trick this person into going with us. And I think that does a lot more harm than good. And now I just an episode just went live with a guy named Sean Vasquez, which you might actually know Sean through Mike and through some other through Rob and everybody.
Yeah.
He owns a company called Pride Foods. It's a huge food company. And anyways, he talked about he was super, super damaged early on in his relationship. He had a really rough childhood. I mean, his mom was murdered before he was the age of 3. He had 2 stepmoms that died from drug related and alcohol related things. He was, sexually, emotionally, physically abused as a kid. He had like a really rough childhood, and he kind of used bodybuilding as he grew up to shield himself and to try to, get through all of those things. And he talked about when he met his wife now. They have 2 beautiful kids, and he's an amazing father. And he's several people that I've had on have been like, hey, he's the role model of what I want to be like as an entrepreneur
Mm,
and as a dad, because he has such firm boundaries on just being in with his family. So he's done the work and he's put himself into it. But he talked about at the beginning of his relationship, I was like, how did you land a gymnast from the University of Oklahoma? Like when you were going through all this crap. And he's like, manipulation. If I'm being completely
mm,
honest with you, he was like, I was a completely different version of myself to get her to like, come into the relationship. And then, as you get more and more comfortable with somebody, those things start to fade and you don't feel like you have to always put on the facade. And so he was like, she sat through it all and she dealt with it all and she watched me work through all these things. And it took me a long time, but I got there. And then now I'm going to spend the rest of my life like paying her back. Right. But it's showing up at the very beginning and letting them, opening the door to let them see, like, here's my attention, here's my baggage, right? Like, even that can be super powerful, because then somebody can feel like they're starting out so much further along in the relationship with you,
mm.
rather than, this first date being superficial and being, very surface level. And I think for myself and my wife, that was part of the reason that everybody felt that we moved super fast, in terms of like, we were engaged, a year into the relationship basically. And I knew I was going to propose to her like 7 or 8 months into the relationship. And it was just, we had all these conversations so early on, and we neither of us pulled any punches. Like, this is what I went through in past relationships. This is kind of what I don't want. This is what I'm looking for, and these are the things that are attracting me to you. These are the things that I'm attracted, like, that you're attracted to me for. And we just like put it all out there. And so I think we advanced in the stages of a relationship so much quicker than typically, because we didn't hold anything back. It was just like all in from the beginning, and it was like, if this doesn't work, no harm, no foul, but this is all of me. I want to know all of you.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned that because that's what I was just going to say is I want to be loved for my whole being.
Yep.
I want to be loved for every single part of me, right? The playfulness, the passion, the fucking chaos and the mess,
Yeah.
right? Like this is me, this is who I am, and I want to be accepted for that. And I want to be able to live in my truth, right? And I want to love you for all that you are. Bring it on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here for it, right? Like see couples and I work with couples too, and like it's so powerful to understand that there's so much opportunity for growth and deep connection through conflict,
Mm-hmm.
right? Through disagreement, right? When we can meet our partner with like it's not they're right or I'm right or you're right or wrong or what vice versa. It's like, oh, these are your beliefs. Great. Like these are mine. Let's
Mm-hmm.
get curious about where your beliefs come from and where mine come from
Yeah.
and see how we can meet each other in the middle. And just that curiosity of, yeah, you don't have to agree with everything that I want to do, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the willingness to be curious about my why and the same thing, I'm going to show up for you in that. I'm going to be curious about your why. And oh, now I understand that the way that you reacted or responded to this certain thing was because of childhood or from a past relationship, right? Man, what can I do to help you heal that wound,
That's super powerful.
right? Like that is love to me,
Mm-hmm.
right? To be able to support each other and help each other grow, and still at the same time knowing that it's not my partner's responsibility to heal those things for me or to help me through them, but it's an opportunity to connect
Yeah.
through those things.
Yeah. And that's something that I think we can pull into all of our relationships now, is if the more that you understand about the way that a person came up, the deeper that you can understand them as a child, as a teenager, excuse me, um, or the things that they've gone through, the more that you can kind of point to whenever how they react in a certain situation, you're like, that might be, because of this core issue. So then all of a sudden it doesn't come across near as personal as it might have
Mm,
previously. All of a sudden you're thinking like they're only coming in with the set of experiences and the set of things that they have gone through in their own life, right? So this subcontext that it can be hard to actually search for in the moment is really what's speaking here. It's not them speaking at me with any certain, type of connotation to it. And I think that's a really, really, really powerful idea. Now, with men's mental health in general, I know you have worked with a lot of high achievers, right? Like you've worked with a lot of business owners and CEOs and members of the Olympic team and all sorts of different things. What are some of the things that you're seeing with these men that you're working with that people would consider high achievers that are coming up time and time again? Like, what are the things that those types of men are struggling with?
a lot of time it is the societal and you know trying to be as successful as their peers,
Yep.
right? And like deep down, I do see in them how much they do want to open up, right? And how much they actually have a craving for going deeper and being more open with their partner and not just simply not knowing how to do it.
Yeah.
Simply not, simply having so much structure their whole life of saying, hey, this is what it looks like to be a man. This is what it looks like to show up and live with that intensity, right? And it's why I love men's groups is creating a space for men to just show up to be,
Hmm.
right? To just like be who you are, right? There's no one in this group that you have to impress, right? Because all day that's what a lot of high achieving men that I know like think they have to do
Yep.
in order to be seen as successful is to impress, is to win someone over, is to win at this or to win at that. When we can show up to a space and not have to win at anything, there's this weight that gets lifted, this freedom that gets reclaimed of from childhood,
Hmm.
right? This like playfulness, this opportunity for play and for to be a little bit more relaxed and a little bit more open, right? That's what I see men actually are craving and not knowing how to get it or not
Yep.
knowing where to find it. Right? When we can get back into nature and when we can do it with other men, right? That's so healing,
Yeah.
right?
No, I think that you always hear the things that are just programmed into our code, right? Into our genetic code, and the things of, you know, we're meant to be, specifically like there's studies done around families that have dinner together at least like 3 to 5 times a week or something. I believe is the number. They the kids go on to do, bigger and better things. They go on to have happier, just lives in general, because they are anchored in these traditions that are just wired into our genetic code. Like we were early on humans, they were spending every single night around a fire, right?
Mm,
Eating together, connecting before bed. So like sleep patterns, if you do that, if you eat with somebody and you just like tune out and you're not watching Netflix, right? Like I do all the time, whenever every meal, pretty much I've got YouTube or Netflix or a podcast or something. But when you just eat together and you're just with other humans before you go to sleep, like sleep patterns are vastly improved. Mental
mm,
health is vastly improved, right? Like your even your psychology when you wake up in the morning, it's vastly improved. You have a better outlook on the day. And so I think just connecting in general is, we see everything propelled on social media to where men should be these hyper masculine killers that achieve, 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 that don't sleep, that wake up early, that go to bed late, that work nonstop. And I think it provides a lot of pressure for a lot of men who don't feel like they're even close to getting any of that. They feel like they're completely out of space. They don't feel like they fit into that mold that they're being told and showed that they should be, right? But it's also because they don't know how to even take that first step,
Yeah.
and or they might be super young, and none of us had it figured out when we were super young. Like you and I didn't. Instagram, whenever I think Instagram came out whenever I was like later into high school, so nobody really even was using it. Um, but like now kids are subjected to social media from super young age. So I can't even imagine if I was, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, and I was being shown all these versions of what I should be from such a young age and all these highlight reels on social media all the time. Like, how would I feel about myself in comparison?
Mm. God, as you were saying that, I was just feeling into how I feel about social media and how I'm like, I see it every day and I open it up and see other people that I look up to and I'm like, fuck, I'm not there yet. Like, what
Same.
can I do to work harder, to grind harder, to do more? And then I remember it's my life,
Yep.
right? Like I get to choose and I get to decide what makes me happy. And I get to decide what achievement looks like and what success looks like. I get to define it. Right? When we see it's so easy to attach success to someone else's.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so hard to get out of that mindset and that like once you're in it, because that's all you continue to see. All you continue to see is other people's success. And it makes you feel like shit.
Yeah.
Right. And we can use it as motivation if it's like healthy motivation. If it's not linked to shame and your worth. And that's what I see is so detrimental, especially with social media. But society as a whole, especially the US culture of what success looks like and what it means to be a man. And yeah, I think for anyone that is seeking a little bit more connection, it is about, getting out of your comfort zone and thinking where you can meet other guys that are looking for the same, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of that is like men's group, getting online and searching for a local men's group in your community. And if you can't find one, like there's online ones.
Mm-hmm.
And those are very powerful too. Like I remember my first one was during COVID and it was online. And I remember I was like, how am I ever going to feel connected to these dudes? Like we're just talking through a computer.
Yeah.
And it only took one guy's share, the first share I had ever heard. And this dude, big dude, huge beard, just looking at him, I would be like, this dude is like badass,
Yeah.
hyper masculine. You could just see he was super jacked and he just opened up and shared and he cried. And I was in tears watching him because it was like one of the first times where I really saw this man open up.
Mm-hmm.
And fuck, did I want more? Like I wanted to jump through that computer and give him a hug
Mm-hmm.
and like be there for him and support him. And his openness and his vulnerability, it really gave me permission to say, oh, wow, like that's safe to do.
Yeah.
That's okay. I can do that too. Right. So even if you show up to these groups and you don't feel comfortable to share just yet, that's okay. Right. Just witnessing another man in his truth and in his vulnerability, like that is true power to me.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about hosting any type of a community like that?
I've hosted men's groups on and off throughout, my last few years, and I have a friend and I, Casey Lutz, were hosting a men's retreat in Puerto Rico,
That's awesome.
third week in April, and yeah, now that I'm here in Salt Lake and finally putting some roots down and getting out of my van, and I live in an apartment now,
Nice.
so I can say that this is home base for now. Yeah, trying to build a community of men. I have a men's group on the 18th of February here in Salt Lake, and we're gonna go through a full somatic breathwork journey for the first hour, and then the next hour sit and circle together and process. And
That's awesome.
I'm really looking forward to that. That is definitely something that I feel super fired up and stoked
Yeah.
to create and to yeah, just have a community of men that are showing up for each other.
That's
I'm
amazing.
excited.
Well, let's say obviously it's unavoidable. At some point, you're going to get, whether man, woman, anybody, right? You're going to get overwhelmed, and you're going to, come to crossroads where, I know for me, every once a month, once every couple of months, I feel like just intrinsically, I just get in this hyper sensitive, just stressed out state where, even like food can taste different, right? Like this is the first time I've ever grown and scaled a truly large business, being AR. And, my, BAM, my coaching company, it's also growing and scaling. And so it's like, there's a tendency for me to feel responsible for like every wrong thing, every fire, everything that comes about. And so I know for me, I get in if it's too many dominoes falling at once, I get extremely overwhelmed. I get extremely stressed, and that stressed out state will last for, 5 to 7 days,
Mm.
depending on what type of work I can do to get out of it. And I'm curious with your experience and your obviously with breath work, what is a quick journey or something that people can do to try to reset, if they are feeling stressed or overwhelmed, or even if maybe it's something that you can anchor at the beginning of the day. What is something quick that people would be able to do actionably?
That's a great question. There's so many different tools that I use. Nature is, for me personally, is one of the most grounding opportunities. Even literally just like a 10-minute walk.
Yeah.
I leave my phone in the apartment. I go for a 10-minute walk. Just get to disconnect, come back. I feel so much better. Something that I like to offer my clients for daily things is these things called breath portal habits.
Okay.
So essentially, it's linking breaths to things that you already do every single day, right? So mine, no matter what time of the day I get up, my feet are always going to hit the floor. Right? I
Mm-hmm.
turn out of bed, my feet hit the floor. That action of my feet hitting the floor is my first anchor.
Mm-hmm.
I take 3 deep breaths,
Mm-hmm.
and then I say out loud, "Today's gonna be an awesome fucking day."
That's
That's
awesome.
how I start my day. As soon as I just did that, I just felt this energy and relief,
Yeah.
right? I wear contacts, so I start my day. I'm in my glasses. I take my 2-minute cold shower. I put my glasses back on. I come out here. I do 10-minute breath work, 5 to 10 minute meditation, do a little journaling, and then at some point I put my contacts on, or put my contacts in. So put my right one in, close the lid, put my left one in. As I'm closing the left lid, that's my next anchor. 3 deep breaths. Right.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, I use an electric toothbrush, brush my teeth, put it back on the charger. 3 deep breaths. Essentially, just linking these breaths to things that you already do every day, right? We're not creating a new habit. We're just attaching breaths to a habit that you already do.
Yeah.
It trains the nervous system to just slow down, right? The body starts to crave these breaths throughout the day. So you'll be
Mm-hmm.
walking down the aisle of the grocery store, taking deep breaths. You'll be driving down the road, taking deep breaths. Right? Now your body is trained to be in this state of response versus react.
Wow.
And it's such a simple tool, right? And it is one of the, if not the most powerful tool that I've ever incorporated into my life.
Mm-hmm.
Within 2 weeks, I immediately saw things that I would normally react to in a certain way. I was responding to from this place of, it's all good. Like, I got this.
Wow. That's
Right?
that's super powerful. And I mean, I preach all the time on the concept of habit stacking from Atomic Habits. That's the same type of idea, right? Like you anchor it to something that you're already going to be doing every day no matter what. So it's inescapable. Once you anchor it to something that's already set in stone in your routine, then it makes it to where that also gets set in stone in your routine. So I love that.
Yeah.
It's very actionable.
And it's just a couple weeks where your body then starts to do it naturally.
Yeah.
And again, it starts to crave these deep breaths because the body knows how powerful it is. And it comes back to number one tool that I try to tell men is just slow down.
Yeah.
If we could just slow down a bit, everything would be so much easier.
I love it. I love it. Okay, you now having developed the amazing body of work that you have working one on one with people, right? Doing one to many in these groups and these retreats and all of these seminars that you've been invited to come lead. And now you're looking to give back to literally empowering new people, to be trained and certified in the modality of breathwork. So tell us about your project that we've worked closely on together, being Aura Breathwork.
Yeah, definitely a passion project of mine.
Yep.
This past year, it was really clear that I can't be in a million places at once to
Hmm.
facilitate breath work and to share this work. And um, I felt really called to create a program to empower and inspire other people to step into this work and to serve and share the power of breath, because people hear breath work and they're like, oh yeah, I've done like some box breathing or I've done some meditation, and it's like, no, 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 it's a little bit different. It's
Hmm.
quite a bit different than what you've experienced or what you attach to the word breath work.
Yeah.
And breath work is, it's a very broad term, right? Like this is a full journey into an altered state of consciousness,
Yep.
right? Similar things, similarly to like a plant medicine ceremony, we can reach those same states through just breathing, right? And yeah, I not only wanted to expand how I could share the power of breathwork with the world, but also like the gift of empowering another person to like go share this has been really rewarding. It's been really incredibly rewarding to see people come to me and have this goal and vision to share breathwork and add it to their toolbox or add it to their coaching offer, right? If they're already a coach, if they're
Yep.
already a therapist and they want to expand and have an opportunity to reach more people or to gain clients through something, it's this modality.
Hmm.
So yeah, I created an 8 week, it's a one-on-one mentorship with me. Um, you won't find another program out there. It's that's similar. It's everyone else is it's either like a video modulated course or it's like a group cohort, and this is one-on-one. And I take people through a full breathwork journey the first week that I record via Zoom so that they can use it as a tangible tool to go back to and learn the flow, the processing, the prompts of the journey. And I take people through 6 weeks of diving into the workbook that I created. And then in order to graduate the program, you have to facilitate a one-on-one breathwork journey from me.
Wow.
And I wanted to create not only a program to give people the tools and the knowledge, but I wanted to create a community. And that's what
Hmm.
it's become. It's become a community of facilitators that are supporting and inspiring one another and are, sharing each other's posts and each other's offerings. And so, yeah, the course is one-on-one and I meet with them once a week. And then I also do a bi-weekly group coaching call with all the facilitators that are currently in the program and have gone through it, so that as you finish, there's this continued support.
Yeah.
Because all the programs I finished, it's like, all right, you're graduated, go serve this and share this medicine with the world and facilitate. And I'm like, shit, I still have questions.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with this. So yeah, I wanted people to continue to feel supported so that they can actually add this and create a full-time business through it, right? Not only share and support and serve this work, but also get paid to do it.
Yeah. That's amazing. Are
Thank
you
you.
with that work, talking with these people and empowering them now to go on and train, um, I guess more and more people on the power of breathwork, right? A quote that comes to mind, and this has kind of been an idea that I've been developing, but I made a post that I'll probably end up posting today, as of the day that we're filming this, which is, it's not always about how hard you work; it's about the levers that you're pulling, right?
Mm.
Like I saw a quote the other day where somebody said, an old lady could lift a semi if she just had a long enough lever, right? Because the more leverage that you have, you can move virtually anything. And so it made me think about how that's applicable to, business, how that's applicable to the things that we're trying to do in general. Is just like the how can you get more levels of output, more units of output, excuse me, with less units of input. And so, for example, with AR, and this is very similar to what you're doing, I have my own coaching company, right? Me and my sister run our own coaching company, and we're able to train X amount of clients, right? But with AR, I'm helping to enable and to empower more coaches that can now impact more people. So instead of me being able to impact this small sum of people, all of a sudden now I'm impacting the person that's impacting the people, which means that now I can have an impact on, you know, essentially a limitless amount of people millions and millions of people versus maybe being able to train 80 or 90 clients within our own company. So it's similar to what you're doing. And so I wonder if that was kind of your motivation behind becoming somebody that is certifying and training up these other people is, this, I realize or recognize the power of this thing that I'm doing, right? Being the modality
Mhm.
of breathwork, healing modality of breathwork. I can only impact so many people on my own. If I can impact the people that are impacting people, this allows my work to be more widespread and to get out to more people and help them and heal them as well.
100%. That was the thought behind it. And it's hard sometimes to be an entrepreneur. It's hard to be your own boss. My mom, she runs her own company, and she always said sometimes it pays to be the boss, and sometimes it doesn't.
Yep.
And yeah, I do. I find it hard sometimes, and especially with all the sports and the hobbies that I have. I'm like, man, it's pretty nice out. There's no wind. I could go jump off a cliff right now. That sounds pretty nice.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it is
It's a
hard to find
crazy,
that.
crazy sentence, by the way. I'm probably going to clip that. I'm probably going to clip that, clip that and put that in the little sizzle reel here.
Like that sounds a lot nicer than being at my computer and doing some work, but
Mhm.
it's honestly it's so rewarding to see people that have gone through the program and sharing about workshops that they're creating or hopping in the Instagram group chat that we have with all the facilitators and people celebrating a client that they just got done breathwork with and sharing what came up for them. And yeah, I do humbly get to like brag a little bit and be like, hell yeah, like I'm so stoked that I had the courage to create this program and to
Yep.
push through the fears associated with it. And before Aura, I had another company and it didn't work out.
Hmm.
And I know that I had to fail at something to be successful at another.
Yep.
And that's what I encourage the people in the program to trust that it's okay to fail. Not only is it okay to fail, like failing is good for you. Fail, go
It's
out and
necessary.
fail. It is necessary, and you will take so much away from. And to me, failure is simply just inaction.
Hmm.
Like if as long as you're taking action in some direction toward a goal that you've set, right? If it doesn't work out, it's just data points that you get to collect in order to be better, in
Yep.
order to learn more, in order to grow, right? And when we can see those past experiences not as failures and as simply as data points, we get to it's empowering, right? We understand it's just part of the journey and part of the process. So go out there and fail.
Yes. And
And
fail
that's what I
fast.
encourage people to do. Fail faster, fail harder, fail more often,
Hmm.
and you will grow and you will be successful.
100%. I love it, man. All right. Last question that I ask every guest is, what are you, Brandon, going to accomplish by any means necessary?
What am I going to accomplish by any means necessary? I think for this year, 2024, my goal and my vision is retreats. I've had in the past some unsuccessful retreats and some losses of money and that's okay.
Hey, fail
And
fast
this
and fail often.
fail fast and fail often. And this year, my goal and my vision is retreats, and I'm going to
Hmm.
make it happen. And part of the thing that I love most is traveling. I lived in a van for 3 years. I loved it to travel and to explore and to get to combine that with healing
Hmm.
um, is my goal. And I have at least 3 retreats that I'm creating and with other people, and I'm super stoked about the collaboration and the partnerships and um, the fear that's
Yep.
attached to it, the fear that's attached to people not signing up. And I'm going to look that fear in the face and say, hey, I'm doing it. And I
Yeah,
know that it's going to be worth it. And I know that it's going to be incredible. And I'm going to make it happen.
absolutely. I love it, dude. Okay, so I'm gonna link all of your stuff down below. So I'm gonna make sure that that's all there. If you had to have what's something that people can opt into or figure out a little bit more about what they can do to actually work with you?
Yeah. Getting ready to start back a little weekly breath work. So yeah, keep an eye out for that on my Instagram.
Mhm.
If you're ever curious about coaching, one-on-one group work, yeah, again, just like reach out via Instagram is probably the best place to connect.
Perfect.
And just stoked to continue to share this work, stoked to continue to share the power of breath work. And if you're listening to this and you've ever felt this call to serve and to share your light and to be a light with the world, and you've thought about breath work, reach out,
Absolutely.
take that first step, take action.
I'll make sure it's all linked below, man. It's been a
Appreciate
pleasure.
it,
Thank you
brother.
so much for coming on.
Love you, brother.
Love you, man.
See you soon.
If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching the entire episode. It means more to me than I could ever actually describe. So thank you so much. I hope you guys got as much out of talking with Brandon as I did, because his insights and the things that he's able to view and even just put into words with men's mental health, breakup recovery, and even just the power of breath work, I think are extremely, extremely powerful. So I'm hoping that you guys took some stuff out of that episode. I know I did, especially with anchoring your breath work and through his breath portals that he describes with basically the power of habit stacking. I'm definitely going to be implementing that into my own life. So, like I said, if you got anything out of this episode, make sure you share it with somebody, even if it's a timestamp that'll help the show to grow. Make sure you leave a review if you are listening on any type of audio platform. And I cannot wait for you guys to see the guests that we have on the next several episodes. So, only way you're not going to miss that, subscribing or following the show. See you guys in the next one. Have an amazing day.